Thank you and welcome to this segment of our report. There are a number of issues that we face each day when it comes to the situation in relationship to how education is being identified in regard to what are we going to do with the promise that has been made for each and every citizen that lives here in the United States of America. And through our political system, there have been a number of initiatives enacted, and we continue to find ways for improvement. There are a number of areas in which there need to be anticipated involvement in relationship to seeing successes and continuing to sustain them. One of the initiatives that we have the fortunate opportunity to talk about today is one called Project Grad. We're here now with the Executive Director of the Newark Project Grad, Ms. Mary Bennett. Ms. Bennett, thank you very much for participating.
Thank you for having me.
And giving us another opportunity. You shared with us a few years ago some of the expectations and obviously a number of the obstacles that do occur in relationship to how we're trying to deal with at-risk and urban youth and giving them the privilege of understanding what success can really be in their lifestyle. And knowing that philanthropy has also been a major involvement in how our system of education has found improvement, we still are falling short. Why don't you just share with us the history of Project Grad and especially with your involvement with it?
Gladly. I was the principal of Malcolm X Shabazz High School here in Newark from 1989 to 1999. And during my tenure there, we looked at young people coming in the ninth grade and saw that they were woefully deficient in literacy and math. Through an initiative funded by the Ford Foundation, Malcolm X Shabazz High School began to try to work with the feeder schools to build a bridge that students coming into ninth grade were better known to us, that the teachers sending them knew what was needed at the high school level, and that the community was working more holistically to address the needs of students, because high school can't be the end game. But if students are coming into high school extremely deficient, getting the high school diploma is one major hurdle, and getting them ready for college is the second. We were fortunate, Newark, to be the first expansion site for a project that started around 1992 in Houston, Texas, called Project Grad Houston. And through the philanthropy of the Lucent Technology Foundation, which is now the Alcatel-Lucent Foundation, Project Grad Newark was born. And we started off with Malcolm X Shabazz and the 8 schools that fed to it, working on literacy development, mathematics development, and classroom management in the elementary grades. And the cherry on top of the cake was trying to get the students from kindergarten to think of themselves going on to college. In 2000, the project expanded to Central High School and 6 schools that fed to Central High School. So by 2000, the project really encompassed almost 9,000 students, K through 12, between the 2 high schools and the schools feeding to them. The first graduates came out of Malcolm X Shabazz in 2001. And the special incentive, not just the support for teachers and the support for the schools, but the special incentive was if students fulfilled a minimum GPA requirement, participated in summer enrichment, applied to and got accepted into either a community college or a four-year institution, they received a $6,000 scholarship that would be managed by Project Grad Newark and paid out over the course of up to 6 years. They were given 6 years because we know nationally there's a lot of stops and starts sometimes during the college experience.
So the $6,000 was over the base of a 6-year period. So it's $1,000 a year?
It actually pays out $1,500 a year.
Okay.
But the students had up to 6 years to use it.
Okay.
So now, you know, we fast forward here, it's 2011. And between the 2 high schools, we have had 866 students to earn the scholarship, Annually, about 60% of the students who earn it use it. Getting the others to get back in school, stay in school is a challenge. And 223 students have earned their degrees, most of them bachelor's degrees. Only about 14% are associate degrees. The really interesting part is that 72% of that 866 recipients are the first member in their family to go to college.
Really? Now, understanding that the investment potential from it dynamically showed improvement and gave incentive to individuals to want to stay involved in higher education, the relationship of it began to dissipate. In essence, you couldn't continue to sustain it.
No.
What really caused that problem?
Well, to Alcatel-Lucent's credit, they committed to the scholarship for the full duration. But the supports for the elementary work, that was mathematics support, having people, experts in math, trained to go in and work in class with teachers, literacy support, because we know that literacy is the underpinning for everything. Those monies, after a while, began to dry up, as did the money to pay for the classroom management. And Newark, in those particular feeder patterns, Central and its feeder schools, Malcolm X Shabazz and its feeder schools, if one were to do the research, have had the highest rate of turnover of teachers across the city. So even though a funder might have initially provided funding for training, if you have, over the course of 2, 3, 4 years, a 50% turnover of your teachers, well, you still need to do more training, because the whole staff doesn't have the set of skills and the professional development to sustain the strategies that you've introduced. A centerpiece of the work, and I do mean centerpiece, was the summer institutes, where we took high school students to colleges, campuses, Essex County, Bloomfield, Seton Hall, William Patterson, Rutgers. We even had 4 years where we were fortunate enough to be able to take students to North Carolina A&T for a 2-week on-campus, out-of-state experience. Those students who did those summer institutes on college campuses in their high school years began to really see themselves as, wow, I can go to college. I can do this. This is what college is like. I can do this. And so as monies to sustain all components of the program have lessened over the years, those monies supported the kids through the work with teachers, through the access, through the exposure to the on-campus experiences. The pieces that we've sustained now for the last 4 years have been the college readiness piece, and that's the work done exclusively at the high schools, not doing the back-end work at the elementary school. The only thing the elementary schools still get is, if requested, I will do workshops for the 8th graders on transitioning to high school. But we know historically, and we know from the continued support of the students, you've got to continue K-16. You can't do the 9-16 piece, because the foundation is laid K-8. And you need, in that grade 9-12 spectrum, you need to be able to get those kids on college campuses, in classes with professors, actually doing the work, and in some instances earning college credit even before they get to campus as college students. I feel very honored about the work. I retired from Shabazz. I did some work with Bronx Community College and Fordham University, and then I was asked to come back and be the executive director. And when I accepted, I was only going to stay 2 years, which I laugh about now, because October 1st, I will have had the position 10 full years. But it's been very rewarding work, but we're now coming to the end of the funding commitment for the scholarships. Alcatel-Lucent's last year of committed funding for the scholarships is this current senior class at Shabazz and Central. And at that point, June of 2012, that opportunity, which was an incentive, which offered these supports over this period of time, will conclude. And what will remain will be just paying out the scholarships over the next 6 years to finish up the students who are already in what we call the pipeline.
Now, the ones who are in the pipeline
Yes.
are at the high school level.
The ones who are in the pipeline, the seniors are the only one in the pipeline at the high school level now. The rest of the students are in college. These are the recipients of the scholarship over years. So you figure if this is 2012 coming and we give them 6 years, the students who earned the scholarship in 2006, if they haven't used their scholarship by June 30th of 2012, the window closes. But the 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, and that last group, 2012, they're the pipeline.
I see. Now, the relationship of what really occurred in terms of the investment,
Yes.
and how the potential really manifested a really good potential in regard to individuals being excited about higher education. Has there been any kind of established program that the public funding has been able to accommodate for in giving that same type of relationship?
No. Public funding, there have been 21st century grants and things like that that came from the federal level to the state level. But down at the district level, you would be hard pressed to find another program concept that embraces the totality of what Project Grad is to be from start to finish. You will find some programs that talk about college readiness, but we track the kids from the time they sign what we call our scholarship guarantee. We literally go into the schools and are talking with the counselors, checking their grades every marking period. We have 4 what are called Project Grad community meetings. It's hosted by a local church. Metropolitan actually is our community partner. And those meetings are designed to help the students and the parents understand this whole process going through. Remember I said 72% of our kids are first generation in their family. Parents want their children to go to college, and schools offer financial aid workshops, how to apply for FAFSA, the free application for federal assistance. But understanding the nuances, which college are you going to go to? Are you going to go to a 2-year college or a 4-year college? Are you going to go to a public college or a private college? Are you going to stay in state, out of state? How is funding? When you do your FAFSA and the school notifies you, you got to look at what's the money. What is a Pell Grant? What are other grants? What are those loans? And students need parents to co-sign for many of those loans, and that in this economic environment has closed the opportunity for a lot of kids.
So in essence, the direct one-on-one counseling, in a sense a mentoring component, does not really exist. And in many instances, the students that were able to benefit from it will have much more an advantage to the newer students that are coming out, because they won't have the whole understanding of how they can be able to plan for a successful career in education. Thinking about those areas that are going to still be needed for support in the effort of a number of different ways in which we would have to challenge it, the idea of what you were able to identify with through the process in understanding the obstacles that the students were going through. Share with us maybe an idea on what can possibly happen if a student is not given the proper direction.
If students aren't given the proper direction, they often don't apply to multiple colleges. They often don't stop to consider, why are you going to that school? You know, what helps you to select it? And when you select it, students are often disheartened because, well, they wrote a general personal statement as a part of their application when the application itself said, no, write on this topic. So from the very beginning of the process, students sometimes are not guided as closely as need be to get them even applying to the right schools. Then the whole idea of in-state or out-of-state. when you are an out-of-state student, you are not going to benefit from the taxes paid by the state residents. So you are going to pay 40 to 50% more in tuition and fees than a person who lives in that state. So now your price tag for your education has just gone up considerably. If you are a student who is struggling in high school, and yes, you're going to earn the Project Grad Scholarship because we set the ceiling at a level that we wanted as many students as possible to attain. But you still need to bolster your skills before you can actually do four-year college or university work. Then you need to look at the community college as a start, but you need to get the associate degree from the community college. Too many students think about, well, I'll go there for a couple of years and I'll transfer. I say to students, if you make that choice, you need to get that associate degree, because when you transfer and you're accepted as a transfer student with an associate degree, then they're accepting your transcript, as opposed to just transferring random credits and perhaps now winding up repeating.
And losing.
Yeah, unfortunately, we can't deny that there's a business side to education. It is a very big business. And when students wind up paying for classes in one school, transferring, and that transcript is picked through, they often wind up repeating classes they've already taken and passed, because that school, the receiving school, says, well, no, you have to take X, or maybe that school's standards weren't as high. So now you've taken the process of this education for this degree the student is pursuing, and you just keep elongating it. Now you're elongating it in time, but you're also elongating it in dollars. You know, I think it's very sad that you can have a student who's in school, and unfortunately in a 5-year scenario, because sometimes it takes 5 to 6 years. Some kids go in needing remediation the first semester, so they don't start taking college-bearing credit courses till second semester. Then you've got to make up your mind about your major. Colleges and universities sometimes in junior year change what the requirements are. Well, shouldn't I be grandfathered by the credits I was required when I declared my major versus now you've added on more? And a conversation with the student as we try to stay with them as they draw down our scholarship annually. We literally get a copy of the transcript. We literally get a copy of the bill. And every year the students have to do a face-to-face interview, and these are the questions that come up. Some parents come with their kids, some kids are on their own, and you could have a kid who really is working, finish their degree 5 years later, and have $60,000 worth of debt for a bachelor's degree. And now they need to. A student will major in criminal justice. I always say, what do you want to do with that degree? Because criminal justice, bachelor's to do what? Now when they say, well, I want to be a prosecuting attorney, I said, well, now we've got to stop and think. The end game isn't the bachelor's degree in criminal justice. You've got a long way to go. And in the postgraduate degrees, all the more often students don't find scholarships, don't find fellowships, so now they're incurring more debt, and that debt never goes away.
The idea that had really created this program itself was something to develop an initiative in which there can be positive outreach. If you're just joining us, we're here with Ms. Mary Bennett, who is the Executive Director of Project Grad, which is a program that was created through the Lucent Foundation and given an opportunity to youth to be able to have an incentive to feel that the interest of moving on to higher education was going to be a benefit to them. You know, Ms. Bennett, we had also discussed in terms, again, and I really want to emphasize the pitfalls that a number of students went through, that even with this incentive, there were some financial problems that occurred, which in result caused a lot of individuals to drop out.
Oh, yes.
Can you talk to me about how you were able to work with some of the students to overcome that barrier?
Well, first, our 6-year window allows the student who has to stop for reasons of finance to, okay, let's look back. What have you been doing? If you left school after the first semester and now you've been out of school for a year. What have you been doing? What kind of work have you been doing? And you've reached back to us. We send letters to all of our scholarship recipients who still have an unused balance in their scholarship twice a year through snail mail as well as email. And we say, okay, now it's time for you to get back in. Let's look at what your options are. What are your obligations? You know, a young lady who came to see me last week, she is now in year 5 at William Patterson University. She still had half of her scholarship. And this year she hopes to be her last year. She's hoping to graduate in May. So I said, well, you know, we need to look at the totality of your transcript. We need to talk about what your goal is. We need to talk about what your obligations are, because you were working in here. Now you want to go back full time. Is William Patterson going to let you pick up where you left off? Did you request a personal leave, or did you just finish a year and didn't go back? So helping the students understand how colleges and universities function as places of business, and that you have to handle your business if you're a student there, is a part of what we believe to be the ongoing support that unfortunately students don't get from the high school. They get counseling support while they're there, but because there's a new crew of kids coming every year, the counselors have to deal with their current workload. They don't necessarily have the wherewithal to deal with the students who graduated in 2010, 2009, 2008, 2007. But if you are a Project Grad Scholar, one of that 866 that we've awarded over the past 11 years, and you are in our network, we make ourselves available to try to do that counseling, to try to provide that guidance, to try to help you look at your situation and see what can you do and what can we do. Even kids who've used all of their scholarships, their grad scholarship, will come to us and we talk about the websites. We literally sit down and say, let's see, but you have to read through every scholarship description all the way to the bottom, because you may find a scholarship that looks like this is perfect for Herb Glenn. And then you get down 3 pages later to the next to last paragraph and it'll say for Florida and Texas residents only.
Wow, yeah. You know, and thinking about that kind of dynamics, the reality in regard to how we have to begin to think on in terms of looking for alternatives is so very important. The efficiency of what had happened, because I had noticed that there was much more than just talking to students about school. It was really interacting with them, getting into their personal life, and sharing with them on ways in which they can overcome a number of different barriers that they were related to. Those kinds of institutions that were built through Project Grad no longer exist. What do you think is an effective approach that we can make to help reestablish it?
Well, we do have to look at the philanthropic community and how it's using its dollars. Alcatel-Lucent and Ford were the first big funders, but I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge that Prudential helped fund. The Schumann Fund provided resources. The Victoria Foundation provided resources. The RCJ Foundation provided resources when we were rolling out the program pieces, especially in the elementary schools. And they even helped. The last help we got from any of them was 2006, when we got some funding to be able to do the last of the formal summer institutes that we were providing. The school district, unfortunately, is diminishing in number. One, as community restructures and leaves and goes elsewhere. Secondly, as the public schools are also in competition with the charter schools. So the schools themselves have less resources to do, but the need for the students is greater than ever.
Right.
So we've got to continue to try to get people to understand, one, there are no quick fixes.
Right.
And two, if you stay and support it at whatever level that you start and stay with it, you will see the benefits. The population of kids is there who will take advantage. Am I satisfied that 866 students received the scholarship? I'm satisfied that we got that many to do so, but I wish it were 1,500. When you consider we've offered this opportunity since the incoming class of 1997, which was that first class to graduate in 2001, I would love if we had 1,500 or 2,000 kids who took full advantage. But we have 886 who did, and of that number, we have 223 with degrees. So what we did works. How many of those kids, because they were not the top of the class. Grad is always aimed at the student who is mid-level and above. Because we know the mid-level, if you create enough synergy, you're going to bring some of that lower, that bottom half up. And you're going to bring them on up to first get their high school diploma, and secondly, to pursue a college education when perhaps there's nobody in their immediate household, whole family structure, who's ever thought of a college degree as a part of who they are.
And we were always talking about how the, the top 10, or forget the whole cliche in regard to that.
But they're going to survive no matter what you do.
And there's very little appreciation for programs that are effectively looking at the individuals that are disenfranchised, that are needing help to really understand how to get into the mainstream and being able to sustain it. You know, it's interesting how we can get $100 million for a school system and still not really understand exactly where it needs to be challenged so that we can have an effective relationship with the youth. And you mentioned it very well, the competition. And as an advocate for alternative education, I felt that my interest in it was to be more involved with giving an opportunity to the student, not to the school. And it has become now a competition opposed to a way in which we can create a incentive towards giving our youth better education.
That's right.
And I think we need to begin to look at how do we take a model like Project Grad and put it into the institution, whether it's charter, private, public, but to focus on the idea of helping elevate the youth that have had difficulty moving to another level. You were able to also involve parents.
Yes.
And the activities of the parents really helped to give a strong foundation of growth to the program. Within that involvement, how many of the parents are still supportive to the effort?
The parents are supportive to the effort, but remember, as I said, for the last 4 years, we focused at the 2 high schools. What we had prior to that, when we were working all the components through the elementary schools, parents were surprisingly supportive, starting with lower grades, because we had annually something called the Road to Success. And what we did was invite the children and the parents from the feeder schools to, we usually had it at Rutgers Golden Dome, what was basically a big rally for education. And it was to get parents who have kindergartners, first graders, second graders, saying, my child's going to college. I know that that's a long way off, but you know, right now I need to be reinforcing reading in the household. On days when the district would close for professional development, we had literacy days. We had something called Books and Bingo. And we would invite parents from all of our schools to bring their kids and come to the Books and Bingo literacy event, play some games of bingo, but the winners of the bingo didn't get TVs, didn't get laptops, they got books.
I see.
And parents, we provided workshops on family reading, family math. What are the things that a parent, sometimes parents are not comfortable feeling they can help their children. We provided very practical workshops at their schools on what are the things any parent can do that reinforces education of their children. So that built a continuity. And parents signed the parent agreement. It was not the scholarship guarantee, but it was the parent agreement to be a part of a 3-way partnership: the home, the school, and Project Grad. That they would come to PTA meetings, that they would come to open house, that they would ask their child, how was your day? Now that may seem minuscule, but for the parent to ask the child, how was your day, reinforces the connection between the home and the school, coming to the literacy events, coming to the road to success. Those kinds of things we think helped to move that child along the continuum. When the child hit high school at Shabazz or Central, that's when they signed the scholarship guarantee, and the parents stayed with it because they had been hearing about it, building up to it. It's interesting now, we have parents who, well, when are we going to have the scholarship signing? There is no more scholarship signing. I said, because your child isn't eligible. Yeah, but when my other daughter came into Central, she signed up and she graduated. Now she's at Centenary College and she's getting the money. It's helping to pay her. I said, but the opportunity has dried up. The current seniors, the class of 2012, will be the last students who can benefit from that incentive. Yeah.
You know, thinking about the idea of why people still are encouraged to want to see this kind of approach continue, and noticing, again, let's go back to the charter public school concept, because the charter was really supposed to be a pilot project to fit into the system. Is there any way that the project itself can fit into the system?
Well, I have to be fair. Initially, 98, 99, 2000, 2001, the district benefited from the program but didn't have any skin in the game, shall we say. Starting in 2002, the district started to give us a couple of staff people who were experts in literacy or math to help us with our work in the schools. And that continued up until 2006. After that, they said their budgets were being cut. They could no longer do that if we couldn't hire the people ourselves, even though they were mostly district employees, that we couldn't continue. What they have continued to do is give us some office space, but that's about the extent of their contribution. And because funds have decreased and diminished, the work that we were doing, as I said, is now strictly with the high school and the college students, except for those occasional workshops that I'm asked to go to do with 8th graders about transitioning to high school. So there's an opportunity.
Great.
And what we did wasn't magic, but we did it with fidelity, and we did it consistently to move the project through the grades, because remember, we were working K through 16.
Right.
And now our work is basically 12 through 16. Well, those other 11 grades need attention.
And the focus in regard to the fact that it seems as if the philanthropic edge had its limits as well, and obviously enough, it was a seed that was planted and was not given an opportunity to grow, but has not died.
No.
And what we're here to help encourage is the idea that this type of a program is an initiative that we must begin to find a voice for and show the strength of encouragement that it can be something to help improve our relationship of education for our future generation. And we're certainly happy that you're here to share it with us again, to let us know exactly that you haven't given up the ship.
Oh, not at all.
And we're certainly going to do what we can to say, as we had done before, to find a way to make sure that we raise awareness about the importance of this program, to see what we can do to make it continue to exist.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. I like to think we're one of the best kept 13-year-old secrets in the city of Newark.
How about that?
And I think the fact that it did not expand to all the feeder patterns and basically stayed in the 2 feeder patterns. Also, you know, if something affects everybody, people sometimes jump on board. But it was selected for Shabazz and Central because those were the 2 schools where the data showed they were facing the biggest challenges in terms of daily attendance, in terms of marking period grading, in terms of graduation, in terms of college going rates. Those 2 areas of town tend to be still the areas of the city of Newark that face the greatest challenges economically, criminal justice, health issues. So it would be wonderful for all the schools to have it. But indeed, when you see that something's working and that you're giving people hope and opportunity, it needs to be nurtured and not allowed to die.
Well, again, we're going to be working with you diligently now. You need our help more than ever.
Absolutely.
And we will certainly make sure that people will begin to become aware and understand how important it is, and whatever it's going to need, as they say, by any means necessary, we're going to make it work.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to enjoy time and share with our audience in regard to how important and effective our activity to create an awareness about alternatives to our educational system is, and to help make it where it does work. We thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you again.